Hello, I am Jayanto Chatterjee from IIT Kanpur and we are discussing managing services contemporary issues. Yesterday we discussed the different elements that go into creating a competitive service business. Today we are going to discuss how do we combine these different elements to create an architectural plan for a new service design or a way of understanding the success model for an existing service business. The important concept that we will introduce today is this concept of core service and supplementary services. So, if you look at this particular diagram and we are continuing from the example that we had taken yesterday, and the example we took last week as well, your visit to a good classy restaurant and your enjoyment with your family and friends. The question that can come up in that context is that what exactly is the core product of such a good restaurant? Food, or is it more than food? And obviously, if you think through, you will see that it is food is definitely the core, but on the whole, your enjoyment or your satisfaction or your perception of quality of a good restaurant is the total experience. Therefore, when we think of service, this experiential paradigm of service, we divide the service into two classes of elements. One is the core, which in this case we are showing as food, and the other will be different kinds of what we call supplementary services. I referred to this book on services marketing. It's a famous book by Christopher Lovelock and Jochen Witz, my co-authors, published by Pearson. In this book, we have used a metaphor of a flower to understand this architecture. The flower means that there is a core and there are petals around, and all the petals must be well formed and the design of the service can be thought of just as in nature we find that the core and the petals are arranged in so many different ways. It is arranged in one way in a rose, it is arranged in another way in a marigold flower, and therefore we can design services by using these core elements and the supplement elements different ways, and that is shown here, that you have the core product is food, and around it we have payment, consultation. Let me go through a little bit more in detail that what are these different elements. And these elements, some of them are elements which are facilitating, and some of them are elements which are augmenting the service or enhancing the service. So, let us say for example, facilitating service and enhancing service, if we divide in two columns, then on the facilitating service, these are services, service elements which are not exactly connected to your consumption of food or your enjoyment with your family, but these are very important. So, facilitating services are like information, order taking, billing, payment, etc. And enhancing services, that means it happens usually during the process of service, or as we discussed yesterday, it happens on stage during the service delivery process, where we have all these elements like hospitality or consultation, safekeeping, exception handling, and so on. Let us take each one, like for example, information. Information may be the directions to the restaurant, the service hours, the prices. These days there are a number of services which provide such facility for restaurants and their menus and so on your smartphone, on the internet, and these availability of this information are elements of competitive service strategy, as are reservation facilities, or if the reservation has been done, then reminder from the restaurant to the customer, so that the restaurant knows whether the customer is caught in a traffic jam, or all these facilities can be done if there is an interaction beyond reservation. So, the communication continues. So, reservation, reminder, notification of changes, if there are these unforeseen delays, these are all part of the information element. And of course, after the service is provided, then receipts, payment receipts, tickets, etc., are part of the information service. Order taking, another of those what we call supporting services, is order entry, which can be done on site. That means when you reach there and you talk to a steward and place an order, or these days sometimes restaurants are actually enhancing their delivery process, where you can actually select from a menu on the web and you can pre-order, and that way the restaurant saves time, you save time if it is so desired. Then of course, therefore, that it is possible to place an order on telephone, through email, through your internet enabled phone, and so on. Some restaurants are even providing a website where you can place the order. Earlier, there used to be the so-called drive-through restaurants, where you came to the gate and spoke into a sound box, and you placed your order, and by the time you reached the server following the queue of cars, your order was ready. That same process has now been improved a lot by using of internet services, where you can do a lot of complicated selection, arrangement of the table where you will sit, and thing. If you are arranging a party, a lot of that can be now done remotely even before you arrive at the restaurant. The reservation, which seat, which table, all those can be whether on site through the interaction with the steward or usher, or on the internet with the system. These are all parts of the order take. Sometimes there are admission possible to restricted facilities. For example, if it is a restaurant which is associated with a disco dance floor, then again you may actually pre-book your availability of your dance sequence or slot, time slot, and these can be pre-booked. Payment elements, card payment, cash payment, options, mix of the two, or sometimes when you are placing the order beforehand just for pickup and bring home delivery, in those cases you can actually, facilities will be needed for entering credit card number online, and this whole process of cash handling, change. Sometimes you may be using some coupon which you have received from the restaurant for use in your next meal. So, this time you are here and you have some coupons collected and you want to use that as a discount on your current bill. All those are part of these supporting service elements. Then there are hospitality elements like greetings, food, beverage, availability of clean toilets, washrooms, and number of research, like some excellent research done by Starbucks, some excellent research done by Coffee Cafe Day. Here it has shown that some of these elements, like it is a hospitality element, it is not the main core that you are expecting in the restaurant, but a clean toilet goes a long way to create customer satisfaction, or good availability of washrooms create an excellent impression on the customer. Then waiting facilities, like you arrive there, there is not an exact match between your time of booking and the table occupied by the previous set of customers. You may have to wait for a little while, but while you are waiting, the different kind of amenities provided, maybe a welcome drink and so on, all these are part of the service element that can be planned to create a superior set of service. Transport, security, and all these also go in this. Safety and security can come in at different levels. There can be in general safety and security when you are actually using the service from any kind of external disturbances or internal disturbances. These days, as you know, there are many instances of things that have happened inside an auditorium or influenced outside the auditorium, a certain situation. So it can happen inside a school, inside a college, or outside. All these security concerns and the safety assurances are now becoming an important part of designing a competitive service strategy, creating the level of certainty or comfort in the customer's mind. Besides that, in many restaurants there are children, they are impatient, they would like to play. So, there are play facilities available in many family restaurants, and that is an example of what we call the safety, security and related services. Then parking facilities, valet parking, caring for your packages, which you may have certain stuff which you do not want to take inside the restaurant, you want to deposit it and collect it when you are going back, or pick up of home delivery service. All these are again part of the another block of service elements. And lastly, it is very important to discuss about this whole area of service recovery. That means service is provided by people for people, and service is intangible and service is dynamic. As a result, there are many possibilities of the role and the script. The exact plan may not play out as originally conceived, and therefore, you have to have systems to handle exceptions as well as unforeseen circumstances. Exceptions are when people have different kind of medical, say so a diabetic person who is part of your team may need sugar free or other types of food elements. Then there can be different kinds of vegetarian, non-vegetarian dietary restrictions, requirements. There could be somebody in your group who is on a wheelchair. So, you have to have facilities where a wheelchair person can be comfortable with the other members of the group and not feel neglected or slighted. Then there could be religious restrictions, different times of prayer or certain color schemes, certain images which may or may not offend some religious sentiments. All these have to be thought of, and these are what we call exceptions. So, we know that they are not happening with every person, but there will be special persons, and therefore, your service system should be able to handle the special circumstances or special people. Then there could be some altercation. A customer may not be happy with a server may be upset with the customer behavior. In all these cases, these resolving of the difficulties or caused by accidents or unforeseen failures, or there could be a medical emergency. Somebody may be suddenly sick, and there has to be a certain system in your service design to handle these kind of unforeseen situations. And then, of course, if there is an unsatisfactory situation, or somebody did not like a particular dish, or there was some kind of contamination in a particular dish, the system should be able to immediately create that the customer is not charged for that dish, or there is a refund given if something has been delivered and it was not good. And compensation of other types may be also there in certain cases. A coupon may be issued for future redemption and so on. Therefore, now if you look at that same diagram that I showed in the beginning, now with all these elements embedded, and study this particular diagram in depth, then you see at the core we have food and beverage, that is the main core delivery of the restaurant. But we understand that it is a total experience, and the total experience is created when all these different petals are added to the core to create what we call the service flower. And the important thing here, in addition to understanding a service in terms of the flower model, the important thing here is to also understand that these core and petal concept can be used very well to create a new service. So, this is a good model for service innovation. So, you can understand the existing competitive restaurants, and you are creating a new restaurant, and you can look into these different petals, and you can create certain distinctive positions and certain differentiating features in your restaurant with respect to all the other existing restaurants. That could be the way orders are handled, that could be the way off menu items can be ordered, or so many different possibilities are there. The important thing here is that the core of providing food and beverage can be very well done by many restaurants. So, these days in many businesses it has become very difficult to distinguish the service in terms of the core element. Opportunities, however, are there aplenty to use these supplementary elements, the enhancing elements as well as the facilitating elements to create a distinctive service. So, that is why I said that this model is very good to create service innovation. And therefore, the way we distinguish ourselves by focusing on these enhancing and facilitating services, where the experience goes beyond what is provided by the core, one can use this model therefore to create the service brand. So, both for service innovation and for service brand creation and service brand promotion, creating the brand equity, this flower model can be very useful. And so, in the next episode, we will take up the different elements that we have discussed in the last two lectures. In short, we will now expand that how we are going to deploy these individual elements with examples to understand that how you could do that. You will be able to do that as a service entrepreneur or as a service intrapreneur or as a expert service oriented manager for any kind of business. Thank you.